Today's video is a super exciting topic, the different types of insurance that you need.
Well, it might not be the most exciting, but it is really important.
Hey guys,
it's Joseph.
And Tasha from One Big Happy Life. We make videos about how to find balance, build wealth, and live your happy. So if you are all about creating a life that you love every single day, this is the place to be.
Last week we made a video about how to reduce your financial risks, and one of the things that you could use was insurance. So in this video we're going to go through all the types of insurance that you should have right now.
And there are 7 main ones and 3 bonus ones that are no less equally important, but definitely start with the 7 main ones. Now, just as a reminder, it's really impossible to eliminate all risk from your financial plan, but layering different protections like insurance really help.
The first type of insurance that you should have is health insurance. This is insurance that covers you if you are sick or in some kind of accident, have some kind of injury. And a lot of times it's through an employer. Sometimes if you are self-employed or unemployed, you have to get this out on the open market on your own.
Now, let's talk about coverage. So the things that you want to keep in mind, obviously, if there's something in particular that you need to have coverage for, you're going to want to make sure that that is included in your plan. But generally, you're going to want to look at the cost of the premium, the monthly premium, the cost of your deductible, which is the amount that you have to pay before your insurance actually kicks in and starts paying stuff, any co-payments you have, which might be a minimum amount that you have to pay for any particular visit. So for example, $300 for any emergency room visit, and then also co-insurance. And this is where the insurance pays only a percentage of the total cost, and then you pay the other percentage. So the insurance might pay 80% and you might pay 20%.
The last thing that affects the cost is there will be a cap on your out-of-pocket maximum that you have to pay. Now, this only includes services that are actually covered by the insurance, but there will be a maximum that if you hit this, then the insurance will just kick in and they'll pay for everything that they cover.
And like Joseph said, just keep in mind when it comes to health insurance, not everything is covered, not every practitioner is covered. And so while your health insurance will cover you in the majority of situations, generally speaking, just understand that it doesn't cover everything and it may not cover something very specific. So it's always worth making sure that the provider that you are using, the hospital that you are using is covered before you contract to receive those services.
And also check any specific thing that you want covered. Make sure that that insurance has it.
The second type of insurance you should have is life insurance, and this covers you when you die.
There are 2 main types of life insurance. There's permanent life insurance that covers you for your entire life, and then there's term life insurance that covers you for a certain period of time, say 20 or 30 years.
Now, generally, term life insurance tends to be more cost-effective than whole life / permanent life insurance because it covers you at a time when you're less likely to die, whereas you will definitely die at some point during the course of your whole life insurance policy, so they know for sure that they're going to have to pay out on you. Now, in terms of how much you should have, well, it depends on how much income you need to replace.
So if you need to replace your entire income, then you will need 25 times your annual salary. That's a lot. But then your family can withdraw 4% from that nest egg for basically ever. Now, if you don't need that much, and let's just say you need to pay off your mortgage and your cars, well, then you can have much less life insurance and have enough to take care of those things, and then and your final expenses for burial, those kinds of things, and then that'll be it.
The next type of insurance that you should have is disability insurance. And this also comes in 2 flavors, short-term disability and long-term disability. Short-term disability is for shorter-term medical emergencies that keep you out of work. So for example, having a baby. So short-term disability policies are great options if you're thinking about having a baby and you don't have paid maternity leave where you work.
Now, to figure out how much coverage you will need, you need to run budgets and see, well, in the short term, what are you going to do? Are you just going to be able to take in some from your nest egg, or do you need a lot of short-term disability coverage to replace a certain percentage of your income?
Now, long-term disability coverage is for like catastrophic illness or accident that will keep you out of work for months or years. And they typically have a 3 or more month waiting period before benefits kick in, because they are for big extended illnesses, and they can last many years to your entire life. And again, determining how much you need, you'll have to put together a budget. And one of the things to consider as you're putting together the budget is figure out whether or not your insurance policy is actually subject to taxes. And in the case of permanent disability, consider the impact that it will have on your Social Security disability income.
Sometimes you'll have disability through work. Sometimes you'll have to go get it on your own. But either way, you want to make sure that a single policy or a couple of policies cover you.
The next type of insurance that you will want to have is dental insurance.
It covers these guys, your chompers.
Because going to the dentist can be really expensive, especially if we're talking beyond preventative care, which would be like your normal checkups, to more restorative work or orthodontia, or like repair work, like if you have like TMJ or something like that. That can get really pricey, or need an implant, like I need an implant. It can be thousands of dollars saved by having a good dental insurance policy.
Frequently, there will also be a waiting period for the bigger ticket items, so it's important that you get dental insurance before you know that you need dental insurance. How terrible is that? But it's something to think about now so that you don't have to think about it later.
The next type of insurance that you're going to want to have is car insurance. So this covers you in 3 different scenarios. 1, if you hit someone. 2, if someone hits you and they don't have enough to pay for your bills. And 3, if anything else randomly happens to hit your car, and that would be comprehensive.
So the law in every single state will require that you have coverage called liability coverage in case you hit someone else. So that will fix their car and their person. And that's going to be required by law if you have a car, obviously. Now, the other 2 types, you will be required, but only if you have financed a car. And it's going to be because the lender wants to make sure that their car is back in good shape in case they have to take it back from you.
So now let's talk about how much insurance you should have. So the first thing to keep in mind is, like health insurance, car insurance only covers you up to a certain amount, which is however much you say that you want, however much coverage you want to have on your policy. So let's just say you go with the state minimum. So where we live, the state minimum is $30,000 per person in bodily injury. Now let's say you hit that person and they have $300,000 worth of damages. Well, your insurance is only going to cover $30K and then say bye-bye, good luck. And then meanwhile, you're still on the hook for $270,000. So if you have a lot of assets, or if you live in a state where, say, your house isn't exempt from judgment, you could run the risk of losing all of your assets and having to go bankrupt because you have this massive judgment from your accident because you didn't have enough insurance.
We have far more than the minimum coverage because we have assets that we want to protect, and hopefully they have more assets over time that we'll want to protect. And also, it's really a lot easier having insurance just handle things. You don't want to ever have it come over to where you're figuring out how you're going to have to pay a judgment.
Now, in terms of our insurance, we have $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident, and it costs, and we have comprehensive on both of our cars, even, right?
We
yes,
have
we have
everything.
Both. Yes.
And our deductible for everything is $500. The higher your deductible, then the lower your monthly premium, or every 6 months is typically how you pay for it, is going to be.
When we looked at bumping up our deductible, because $500 is pretty low, it actually didn't have that much of an impact on the premium. So you'll want to just kind of play with the numbers and see what makes the most financial sense. So we pay $1,500 a year, and it covers the 3 of us, including Alexis, and our 2 cars, full coverage. All right, the next type of insurance you're going to want to have is homeowners/renters insurance.
And so if you're a homeowner, this covers both your house and the contents in it. A renter's policy will typically only cover the stuff that's inside.
Now, I have lived at an apartment complex that required us to get liability insurance, which covered the building. In case, I said, a fire started in our apartment, it would have been, the apartment complex would have come after us through our insurance.
Now, renter's insurance can be really, really cheap, especially if you don't have to have that liability for the whole building. If it's just your stuff, it could be $20, $30 a month, something very reasonable. And it is really important because if something like, somebody throws a brick through your window, not your fault, but you would still have to pay for that window. And so if it was an expensive window, renter's insurance would also cover that.
So under our homeowners policy, so that covers replacing the entire house and any attached structures, and also covering all of our effects that are in the house. So you want to just be careful with that because sometimes the policy will only cover the current value versus the replacement value. So you definitely want to go for the replacement value so that you're not trying to figure out how to find used items in the same condition you had it when you just suffered a catastrophic loss.
Oh, that would never be the same.
So then the other thing is homeowners insurance policies and maybe renters insurance policies often offer riders that will give you additional levels of coverage. So if you have a really expensive item, so for example, we have a valuable personal property policy rider on our homeowners insurance policy to cover my ring, for example, our computer and camera equipment, just because those high ticket items cost a little bit more to insure. But it's great because it also includes accidental damage and theft. So we once got a computer replaced because I accidentally spilled wine on the keyboard. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, you'll definitely want to make sure that you have all of those extras on your policies. The seventh type of insurance that you should have is identity theft insurance. Now, this will cover you if somebody pretends that they're you and racks up a bunch of debts. Now, we've said in the past, you should not pay for this because it can come for free with certain services or be at least really, really cheap rolled into a homeowner's policy or something like that. But it's really important to have in case somebody does pretend they're you and you need an attorney or somebody to help with all the paperwork to get your credit back in order and all the judgments that actually should be on the other person off of you.
Now we're going to give you 3 bonus types of insurance that you may want to consider getting. So number 1 is an umbrella policy. Now this policy kicks in after some of your other policies, so in this case it would be like your homeowners or renters and your car insurance policy, to protect your assets if there's a judgment beyond those policies.
Our policy covers us up to $1 million, so for now, that's enough to make sure our assets are safe. The next type of insurance is long-term care insurance. So this covers you if you need to go into an assisted living or a nursing home and need extended and serious medical care for quite some time. Now, while you're young, you probably don't need this kind of policy. Though it's going to be cheap, you probably don't need it. When you hit 60, though, odds are 1 in 3 you will need long-term care. So at 60, 59, take a look at getting this insurance.
And of course, the longer you wait to get it, the more expensive it is. So seriously consider getting it at 59 before you cross over that nasty 60, 1/3 mark. Okay, and the final type of insurance you should definitely consider getting is travel insurance, especially if you are going to be traveling outside of the United States or if it's a very expensive trip. So when we went to Singapore last year, we definitely got travel insurance that included things like medical evac in cases of emergency, because we just read so many horror stories of people being in other countries and stuck there for weeks or months because they couldn't afford a medical transport to get back to the United States.
And so it'll cover other things too. If you're sick before you leave on your trip, it will reimburse you for things like your really expensive flights and hotels that you've already booked and been saving up for.
So down below, tell us, out of these 10 types of insurance, how many of them do you guys have? Hint, we have all 10. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. We don't have long-term care insurance.
Oh, wait, shoot, we have 9.
We have 9.
Bye. Bye. I forgot about long-term care insurance. I'm like, yeah, we nailed it.